A bunch of the OP champs from 13.22 have been nerfed for 13.23, so the solo carry list will see a bit of a shake-up for every single role. As always, we'll be covering 3 champions for each role that possess the greatest carry power for the current meta. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. Kicking off the top 3 for top lane and one of the most powerful champions for the current state of the meta is Fiora. Fiora absolutely thrives in the 13.23 top lane landscape, where we are seeing Cassante and Aatrox being so heavily prioritized. The only top lane matchups in the top 10 most played that Fiora has a negative win rate against right now are Camille and Malphite. Malphite is definitely the ban we would recommend using, as there's just very little counterplay to his armor stack and attack speed slow. Early on in lane with Fiora, it's all about taking these short trades around vital procs and grasp cooldowns. Although Fiora loves extended fights once she gets a few items, it's not her biggest strength throughout the first few levels. Especially if your W is available, there's no way for the enemy to trade back against you when taking those very short trades. Once you chunk the enemy out with those repeated short trades, then you can open up windows to look for all-in plays. The core build for Fiora is a Divine Sunderer or Trinity Force Rush into Ravenous Hydra 2nd and Hullbreaker 3rd. Grasp is the keystone rune with Demolish, Second Wind, and Unflinching, followed by Mana Flow and Scorch for secondaries. A top lane champion that everyone below Diamond would benefit from adding to their champion pool is Nasus. Especially if you are Gold or below, Nasus is an absolute ticket out of low elo right now. Recent 13.20 patch has been so great for Nasus because with games slowing down, it allows him to scale into his godly mid to late game more consistently. You run Doran's Shield as the starting item, take Fleet Footwork and Second Wind and Runes, and coupled with the sustain from Nasus' passive, it's actually extremely difficult to bully him out of lane. Even if you do get chunked, you're running Teleport, so if you make a mistake and find yourself in a vulnerable spot in the lane, use that TP and get back to stacking Q. Surviving until 6 without dying and just making sure you're staying in experience range should be your priority early on. Level 6 onwards is where you can be a lot more aggressive, as the dueling power of Nasus when he has his R is monumentally better than without. Matchup wise for Nasus, Garen is a pretty good ban right now, as the Ignite and Phase Rush do a good job at countering his kit. Divine Sunderer completion is another massive power spike for Nasus. Frozen Heart is the second purchase in most games, while a situational tank item like Spirit Visage or Thornmail work great third. Although tanks may not be who first come to mind when you hear the phrase solo carry, Ornn is way too good to pass up on right now. The thing about Ornn is that he offers so much in terms of engage strength and crowd control, but his burst power from his all-in combo is ridiculously strong as well. You'd almost think that Ornn is a mix of a tank and assassin sometimes, with how much damage his full combo can deal to a squishy champion. The longer games last, the more value Ornn and his team get from him being able to upgrade his items, so the 13.20 anti-snowball patch has pushed him back into meta. The only matchup that most Ornn players are running into issues against right now, and our recommended ban for Ornn, is Fiora. Fiora's entire kit is a pretty hard counter to Ornn, as the true damage, mobility, and the fact using Ornn E is kind of suicide if Fiora has W up makes it quite difficult to succeed with Ornn in the matchup. We mentioned this skill order adaptation the last time we featured Ornn in a solo carry video, but we want to reiterate it again for those who may have missed it. Majority of the best Ornn players are running the skill order of W max first into E second and Q last. Most low elo Ornn players are maxing Q out second though, and winning far less. The added mobility and burst power from having E maxed out for mid-game teamfights is much more valuable than Q. Ornn E base damage is 260 at max rank, while Q is only 120. Where Ornn thrives in solo Q is finding those catch plays with R, and by maxing E out second, it makes capitalizing on those catch plays much more reliable. Standard 3-item core for Ornn is a Sunfire Aegis Rush into Radiant Virtue second, and a situational tank item third. Pick up Grasp for the keystone rune with Demolish, Second Wind, and Overgrowth. Best secondaries are Magical Footwear and Biscuits. With both Jarvan and Briar nerfed for 13.23, the jungle solo carry list has seen a shakeup. Rammus is joining the top 3 for this patch, as he's coming off a great buff from 13.22 that has pushed him back into a powerful spot. Now that pet DPS scales off armor, it's helped out with Rammus' traditionally slow clear immensely. The fact is W armor was buffed in 13.22 has directly made his clear even faster as well. It's not just the recent buff that gives Rammus more priority though. When you take a look at how the current jungle meta is aligned, there's only one AP jungler jungler who has a play rate above 5%, being Echo. The 8 most played junglers right now are all physical damage, which suits Rammus extremely well. Lilia is one of the matchups that most Rammus players struggle more against, so she's a good ban to consider. If you're somebody who's still running Flash every single game on Rammus, look to swap over to Ghost. The consistent gank power is so much higher when running Ghost, and it's really no surprise that Rammus players who run Ghost win 3% more than those who take Flash. Optimal build for Rammus consists of a Thornmail Rush into Even Shroud second, and a situational tank item third. Aftershock is the Keystone Rune with Font of Life, Conditioning, and Unflinching. Grab Triumph and Alacrity for secondaries. Second on the solo carry list for jungle in 13.23 is going to be Evelynn. Evelynn is arguably the best pure carry AP jungler you can play for solo queue. With Evelynn, you have a very clear power spike, being the level 6, which helps you stay consistent each and every game. Cycling camps on respawn and only reacting to gank angles that are free for the taking will ensure you hit 6 before the enemy jungler. At 6, it's all about pouring on the impact, as you want to try and prioritize whichever lane provides you with the best gank setup. The catch power in the mid to late game is what makes Evelynn so lethal for solo queue. Using your stealth to position on the flank and waiting patiently for the enemy priority target to split from their team is key to finding results on Evelynn. You really never want to be playing a fight straight up with the champ. Coming from behind or flanking from the side is where she thrives. You cannot be an impatient person to play Evelynn, because oftentimes it's all about waiting around and letting the enemy make the mistake. Banning out a meta jungler who likes to gank a lot is never a bad idea when picking Evelynn, so Jarvan or Hecarim are good options. Rocket Belt and Rabadons are going to be the 2 core items on Evelynn, while it's imperative you pick an early Dark Seal and get that stacking for a potential Magi's purchase. The best Keystone Rune for Evelynn is Electrocute with Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Relentless Hunter. Roll with Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm for secondaries. A jungler who has been on top of the meta for a while now, who avoids nerfs and becomes one of the best carries for 13.23 is Nocturne. Nocturne had been right alongside Jarvan and Briar in recent patches, so now that both of these champs are nerfed, it gives Noct even more priority. Games slowing down a bit and being less snowbally has helped out these champs like Nocturne and Evelynn, who want their level 6 to really come online. Level 3 or 4 skirmish of Nocturne is actually pretty underrated though, if you can get your fear from E to go off. Noct literally gains 30 AD when fighting in his Q at level 4, so many players sleep on the early game dueling strength of the champ. Correct W usage can be huge as well in the 1v1 and completely nullify the dueling power of meta picks like Lee Sin and Jarvan. Even though you want 6 as quick as possible, contesting Crab and taking 1v1 fights early on is not something you want to completely avoid if your laners have the priority to move first. Fighting for Crab won't delay your ability to cycle camps on respawn, so right after you're done with Scuttle, you can reset and look to begin full clearing again. Other level 6 spiking junglers like Shyvana and Evelynn are often better off just avoiding all early game fights, but with Noc, you do have more options. Since Nocturne thrives the most when he's able to freely R onto whoever he wants, using your ban on a strong peel champion who can nullify that strength like Janna or Lulu is a good idea. The core build for Nocturne consists of a Stridebreaker Rush into Black Cleaver second and Death's Dance or Maw third. Lethal Tempo is the Keystone Rune with Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace, followed by Eyeball Collection and Ultimate Hunter for secondaries. Moving on to the mid lane top 3, our first selection is going to be Sylas. Sylas is one of the best melee mids that you can play right now, as he's finding a ton of success in the current mid lane meta. There's just one mid lane champion in the 15 most played that Sylas has a negative win rate against right now, and that champ is Vex. Vex is always our recommended ban when playing Sylas, as her kit is enabled by all the mobility that Sylas has. You have 2 options at level 1 with Sylas that you should be looking to adapt to in each game. E Start is going to work best in the melee mids and actually provide Sylas with one of the best level 1 trade tools for any champion. Especially if you run the rune page with Electrocute and take Scorch in secondaries, your burst power at level 1 is going to outmatch most melee mids. It's usually level 2 or level 3 that we talk about for most champions as their big spike in lane, but Sylas can look to gain an advantage right from the get-go. In range matchups, however, where trading with E is more risky, starting Q and making sure you secure the first 3 melee minions without taking any damage is key. For a more in-depth look at the intricacies of Sylas, our Master in Minutes course will provide you with everything you need to begin stomping with the champ. The core build for Sylas is a Night Harvester Rush into Shadowflame second and Zanya's third. One of the best mid lane mages that you can play for solo queue right now is Syndra. We've seen Syndra prioritized a ton at this year's Worlds, and she's gotten even better since the Worlds patch, as the anti-snowball patch helps a bunch with her weaker early game. Ever since her mini rework, Syndra's identity has changed from that massive lane bully to a more powerful mid to late game champ. We've seen this new build pop up over the past few patches, patches that provide Syndra with an incredible 2-item spike. Liandry's into Cosmic Drive offers a mass amount of ability haste, which works amazing for Syndra because all of her spells have pretty high base cooldowns. The matchup you want to avoid the most when picking Syndra, and our recommended ban, is Fizz, as his long-range catch with R and slipperiness from E make it very difficult for a skill shot reliant immobile mage like Syndra to function. Due to Syndra's passive to where you gain bonus splinters when tagging the enemy with 2 abilities within 4 seconds, you should not be afraid to run through your mana pool. If you're not using teleport back to lane with Syndra because you've run low on mana, you're probably not getting as many passive stacks as you should be early on. This should be your main objective with Syndra in lane. It's not even really about killing the enemy, but stacking passive as quick as you can. Rune Page you should be looking to run on Syndra is First Strike with Free Boots, Minion Dematerializer, and Cosmic Insight. The best secondaries are Mana Flow and Transcendence. Rounding out the top 3 for mid lane is going to be the best blind pick mage of the patch, being Orianna. Teamfight impact with Orianna is incredibly strong, and it allows you to be a consistent force in each game by farming well and hitting your core items. Due to the W buffs from a few patches back, many high elo players, including our challenger mid laner Shori, have started running a very unique skill order on Orianna. We noted last patch that some players have been going for 3 points Q into W max, but Shori is just straight up maxing W. By doing this, you play Orianna a lot more like a poke mage instead of a consistent damage mage, which actually makes her a little bit easier for the average player. You don't have to be so focused on constantly moving your ball around, and you more so focus on just landing that Q-W combo for a ton of upfront burst. Ori players who max W out first are actually winning about 1% more than those who max Q first, so definitely give it a shot if you have not already. For a more in-depth look at this new way of playing Orianna, Shori has a brand new full game commentary for you guys on our website. Ban-wise for Orianna, Syndra and Xerath are 2 good options for the current meta, as they outrange Ori, which makes it difficult for her to function as well as she'd like in team fights. For the build on Ori, Luden's Rush into Shadow Flame is going to suit you great into more squishy comps that won't be building any magic resist. Liandry's with Archangels is going to suit you better into tankier comps to where you'll need an extended fight to take them out. When going for this W max Orianna, look to try out Comet instead of Airy or Phase Rush. Comet is going to make that QW combo hit as hard as possible, so it has good synergy with this more bursty style of Ori. The best ADC for solo queue in 13.23 is Vayne. Vayne is just such an incredibly versatile pick right now, which feels kind of weird to say. The champion has so many viable builds at the moment, so you can slot Vayne up against any team comp and succeed. In the past, Vayne's identity has been that she thrives at taking down tanks due to her true damage from W, but she's actually a phenomenal pick into squishies right now. Stormrazor with Essence Reaver and Ghostblade build allows Vayne to burst super hard with a Q max setup, as the spell drops to below a 2-second cooldown in the mid game. Fleet Footwork is the keystone rune that you should be running with this setup. The Trinity Force setup is the alternative option for Vayne, and it's going to work better into comps that have more bruisers or tanks that you'll need to be auto-attacking more to take down. With that in mind, Lethal Tempo is going to suit you really well for the keystone rune. Regardless of whether you are playing the Essence Reaver or Trinity Force build, Q max is what you should be running. Both ER and Trinity have the Spellblade passive, and with a Q max, it allows you to take advantage of the passive to its fullest potential. Look to prioritize your ban on ADCs who have stronger early game power. Right now, Ashe is one of the better options, as she's being picked quite a bit in meta. Taking home the second solo carry slot for ADC in 13.23 is going to be Jinx. Get Jinx to 3 items, give her a passive reset in a team fight, and there is no other ADC I would rather have in my team for the current meta. The raw solo carry power that Jinx possesses now that her passive attack speed stacks on takedowns is completely ridiculous. Since Jinx lacks the same kind of self-peel as someone like Vayne, using your ban on a hard engaged champion like Jarvan or Rakan is a good idea. Something that a lot of Jinx players may not think about is using her ultimate to acquire pressure in lane instead of using it to kill. If you're coming off a reset and you notice the enemy ADC is trying to recall in a bush, even if they aren't in kill range, just using R to stop their recall can be insanely good value. This either forces the enemy into a bad reset timing to where you'll be able to push the wave in, get a plate, and deny them farm, or if they decide to stay in lane, you should have the item advantage to beat them even without your R. Adapt your core build based on the enemy composition. Into squishies, a Stormrazor Rush with Rapid Fire Cannon 3rd is going to work great. Against a couple of bruisers or tanks, going for Kraken Slayer and then Hurricane 3rd will do the trick. Rune Page is a lethal tempo with Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and Cutdown, followed by Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm for secondaries. And for the third and final ADC we would recommend you prioritize for 13.23, it's Misfortune. You just can't go wrong with Misfortune right now, as her lethality build is incredibly strong and easy to execute. As if MF wasn't already easy enough, by building lethality, you're so front front-loaded with damage that weaving in auto attacks consistently is not as imperative as most ADCs. We've also got these supports with incredible lockdown being played a ton in meta, like Thresh, Nautilus, Rakan, and Lux, which complements the all-in power of MF extremely well. To help you stay super mobile and space around in fights, look to run Boots of Swiftness instead of Berserker's Greaves. Swiftness Boots works amazing for lethality MF, since she's more focused on getting in that good position for a nice ultimate than weaving in constant autos. Meta champs with long-range engaged strength are who you should prioritize your ban on when playing MF, so Jarvan or Rakan are two good choices right now. Buffed for 13.23, and now one of the best enchanter supports that you can play for solo queue is Janna. This mini rework has been so great for Janna because her solo carry power has shot up tremendously. W max first is now the way to play her, which provides you with free point-and-click damage every 7 seconds. Imperial Mandate Rush is also extremely powerful now due to W max becoming meta, which allows your ADC to deal more damage as well. At the same time though, you still got the incredible peel power from Janna, Q, and R, so the champion is extremely well-rounded in many different areas. With these ADCs who have strong scaling capabilities like Kai'Sa, Jinx, and Vayne being picked so much in meta, it makes picking up Janna even more worthwhile. Early game ADCs like Trist, Draven, and Lucian are nowhere to be seen right now, so a strong scaling enchanter like Janna has a lot more value. Ranged supports who don't need to dive into fights to be effective are who Janna hates playing against the most, so Senna is a good ban for the current meta. For the rune page, it's Aerie with Mana Flow, Celerity, and Gathering Storm, followed by Eyeball Collection and Relentless Hunter for secondaries. When it comes down to a damage-oriented support, there is nobody who tops Zyra for 13.23. Especially if you're in gold or below, you need to be spamming Zyra if you want to climb from low elo as a support. You're the carry when you lock in Zyra, not your ADC. Don't be afraid to secure kills in skirmishes because you cannot rely on your ADC to win games for you. This is what makes Zyra so great, as your ADC can be a complete bot, but with how much damage Zyra's full combo can deal at level 6, she can do everything on her own. The poke potential of Zyra has become even better as of recent due to the Q changes from 13.21. You now max Q out first on Zyra and have a lot more consistent DPS power. Not only is Q on a much shorter cooldown than E at max rank, E is way more difficult to land, which makes the risk to reward of maxing E over Q not really worth it for the average player. In regards to the core build on Zyra, rush Liandry's, pick up Rylai's second, and then decide between Demonic Embrace or Zanya's third. Zyra is more vulnerable into supports with hard engaged strength, which makes Rakan a good ban for her. Comet is the best keystone rune with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch, followed by Taste of Blood and Relentless Hunter for secondaries. The recent nerfs to Senna were not enough to significantly reduce her solo carry power, so she's back in the top 3 for 13.23. It's pretty insane how much damage this champion can deal as a support if you can secure a bunch of souls throughout the early game. To make stacking souls less of a sweat during lane, using your ban on a pick support like Blitzcrank or Pyke is a good idea. In those more difficult matchups against champs with strong catch power, adapting your rune setup can really help you out as well. Although Inspiration Secondary is more popular and will work amazing into Enchanter supports, taking Resolve Secondary with Bone Plating will really help you against the more aggressive bot lane duos. Of course, Fleet Footwork is going to be the keystone rune, while Presence of Mind, Alacrity, and Cut Down rounding out the primary page. The optimal build you should be running on Senna is an Umbral Glaive Rush into Ghostblade second and Rapid Fire Cannon third. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent Challenger players into Elo Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So that's going to wrap it all up for the latest update on the best solo carries. Thanks for watching, everyone. Good luck in solo queue. We'll see you back soon.